So we got Andrew McCarthy with us. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, Fred, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I know we've talked briefly about this controversy concerning this law and order situation. I know you didn't watch it yourself, but
when you left, I stopped watching it.
well, I know you know about the facts, quote unquote, that they were dealing with. What can you tell us about these depictions that were made in this show?
Well, I think it's a really shameful use of propaganda in order to sell a viewpoint, which has been the viewpoint aggressively pushed by the left for a number of years now, which is that the Bush administration conducted a systematic torture regime. And the reason this is such a concern is that, as we've seen just in the last week or so, we're still under an immense threat from terrorism. And the only real defense we have against terrorism is to collect intelligence. And it's important, I think, that the history of what we did to collect intelligence and what we didn't do to collect it and why it was successful is important. And we really put ourselves in a very precarious position when we allow a very self-interested left-wing version of history to take hold and solidify, which is really far afield from what actually happened. Mm-hmm. Abu Ghraib, for example, and that I think is the example that sticks in.
Yeah, that the memo led to that.
Yes, that had utterly nothing to do with the memo. The memorandum, which was authored by John Yoo and some other people at the Justice Department in 2002, was a very careful, meticulous study of what the parameters of torture were for purposes of trying to stay a considerable distance away from what the line of torture was. And it was guidance for a CIA top-secret program that involved top-tier al-Qaeda members who were held by the CIA at prisons around the world. And it never really affected more than a relative handful of the over 50,000 people who we've had in custody at one time or another during the War on Terror. It had nothing to do with Abu Ghraib, which actually was an abuse of prisoners by military prison guards that was first discovered by the military itself, was first revealed to Congress by the military, only became a scandal when the photographs themselves, the images, actually became publicly available. But it was thoroughly investigated by a bipartisan commission led by a very respected figure, a former Democrat Defense Secretary, James Schlesinger, which concluded that it was preposterous to suggest that the Bush administration had put in a systematic torture regime. And while it was very critical of what went on at Abu Ghraib, it was clear that Abu Ghraib had nothing to do with an interrogation set of practices or protocols that were established by the Bush administration, and in fact took pains to show that in the lead-up, not only to Abu Ghraib, but in the War on Terror in general, and in terms of handling prisoners in general, that Secretary Rumsfeld had actually authorized a number of military or interrogation tactics, none of which even included physical touching. There were a bunch of tactics that did involve not only waterboarding, but other measures of physical abuse that were pitched to Rumsfeld, and he declined to authorize them.
Well, even bit past the point of Abu Ghraib, the show basically took. Depicted the situation to be that the memos were interpreted by the people using the memos that you can do anything that you want to do and that you are bound by no law in time of war. Abu Ghraib or anywhere else in the world, were these memos ever used, or has there been anything to come out to indicate that they were used to do anything other than what you've just described by trained CIA agents?
No, in fact, I think what the history has shown is precisely the opposite. what the lesson that we take away from Abu Ghraib is that if you violate the rules that were in effect, you get prosecuted, which is what happened to those people. And what we've learned outside of Abu Ghraib about the CIA program is that the agency was actually quite meticulous in continually going back to the Justice Department and to their own superiors to make sure that X, Y, or Z tactic that they wanted to use fit within the four corners of the guidance that the Justice Department had given them. So if anybody gave them the green light and told them, fellas, look, there are no rules, you can just do whatever you want and hope for the best, that's certainly not the way the people conducted themselves.
Right. Andrew McCarthy, as always, very, very insightful, very helpful information. Thank you, Andrew, for being with us.
Senator.